Prison Labor and Racial Inequality by Sarah Lowe. In the United States, more than 1 million people wake up in prison every day. From the beginning, the prison system has been shaped by racist laws that targeted African Americans after slavery, and those foundations still influence who ends up in prison today. Most of the prisoners spend their days working, cleaning, cooking, or doing other activities that help our economy. They are often paid for their labor, but usually just in cents or nothing at all. After the abolition of slavery in 1865, the 13th Amendment left a loophole. Slavery was illegal unless someone was convicted of a crime. Many African Americans after this were arrested for very small or fake accusations. They were assigned to work for farms, railroads, and other companies. This was a new way for the system to use them and get free labor. Sources said it was a way to reproduce the racial order that slavery once maintained. This was known as convict leasing, which was common after the Civil War and state and local governments leased prisoners to companies for profit. It disproportionately targeted African Americans, which also put them in brutal and deadly conditions. One of the first people to be a victim of convict leasing was an African American boy named Cy Williams. He was the first person in the state of Florida that was ever put into their leasing system. At the time, they did not even list people by name, so he was listed as number one. According to records, Cy was arrested for trying to steal a horse, and that crime led to a 20-year prison sentence under convict leasing. Since he was so young, the warden of the camp he was imprisoned at was not sure where to locate him. After time passed, he was assigned to carry bricks back and forth across the prison yard, which was difficult for someone of his age. He did this every single day under supervision that was very harsh. They were watching to make sure the job was done right, and they had no care or mercy. If the job was not done correctly and the bricks were damaged or misstacked, then they were at risk of being whipped. On top of that, he had little food and horrible living conditions. They were forced to do this work in heat and were under threat if they did it improperly. During this time, the system never considered even reducing his sentence. There was a protocol that after 10 years, prisoners would be reviewed for shorter sentences, but he was not given that opportunity. Proper procedures for sentence reduction did not exist in camps like the one Cy was in. Later in his life, he was given something called gain time, which got him released after 17 years instead of 20. He had survived almost 2 decades of forced labor in horrible living conditions. There is little known about Cy Williams after his release, but researchers explain that survivors of convict leasing go through a lot of challenges after incarceration. Many people that lived in those conditions were left extremely weak and disadvantaged. Survivors have issues reintegrating into society and rebuilding their health, while also earning a living. His story is one of many that highlight how the system was less about justice and more about control and racial oppression. Prison labor is connected to a much larger problem of mass incarceration. It has become a major cause of poverty and inequality. Being imprisoned affects family stability, income, and future employment. A lot of people think forced labor is something from the past, but it still happens today. Research shows that today's prison system continues to show patterns of racial inequality. Because Black Americans are overrepresented in prisons, they are also the ones most affected by low-paid and forced labor. Prisoners do a lot of important jobs, like making license plates and products for government companies, maintaining prisons, and cooking and cleaning. They make extremely low wages, and if someone refuses to work, they can be punished or lose privileges. Smith and Hatter say this shows how the system uses prison labor the same way slavery did. Prison labor isn't just work inside prison walls, it is part of a long history of racial injustice in the United States. The system we have today didn't just appear on its own. It grew out of older systems made to control and exploit African Americans after slavery. From convict leasing after the Civil War to the mass incarceration seen today, the same patterns of unfair treatment and forced labor continue. Black prisoners still do important jobs for very little pay under strict rules, which is similar to how slavery worked. Stories like Cy Williams show the human cost of this system. His almost 20 years of forced labor, harsh conditions, and lack of proper treatment show that prison labor has been more about control and oppression than about justice. It harms people, families, and communities, especially Black communities. Even today, things haven't changed completely. Racial inequality and unfair treatment in prison still exist. That makes us ask an important question. If slavery ended more than 150 years ago, why are parts of it still seen in our prisons today? Learning this history is important so we can understand the problems in the system and think about how to make it fairer for everyone.